Hello, hello. This is Kareem,
And this is Travis.
and we're back with an episode of One Hit High Points.
Well, welcome.
Welcome. So, pretty much what we're talking about today, because it's day 3 now of trying to do this, is still understanding that there's an active genocide going on, as well as some things that we're doing in these very dark, horrible times that I think people should be focusing more on doing, which is working out. And I say working out at the gym, keeping yourself mentally fit. Making sure that you're aware of the foods you're eating, researching pretty much everything that you consume and do in your day-to-day life. Just question it and see if it's benefiting your health now more than ever. I mean, I'm not trying to catastrophize, but with all that's going on, I can only imagine.
But yeah, you really have no idea what's going to happen next. I mean, think of there's random shortages of everything.
Yeah,
that happens. It's like food banks.
You know what I think about sometimes, which is weird? Do you ever feel like you have thoughts in your head and you just want to take them out and just not have to actually speak them because you know that there's many ways to interpret things in life? So you have this thought in your head and you just want to specifically take it out the way you see it and just show it, because
I think
your words can never
some of it
describe it enough.
For myself is that I struggle coming up with words as I'm coming up with these words right now. It's like I have the thought, but it's like vocabulary kick in.
That might be because we smoke weed a lot, and that unfortunately
I've always struggled with words.
Short-term memory.
I think it's more I should have paid attention in elementary school instead of. I don't know what I was doing in elementary school.
Anyway, so yeah, work out. Just find something that's makes your body move. Just anything that you can have excitement in doing physically. Just running.
Running. That's what you chose
as far
first.
away as you can. Because the world sucks. I'm just kidding. It does sound.
Like one thing that we just started or trying to get into is rollerblading, so that's kind of fun to keep you active and moving. And
I love the threat of and constant fear of danger of breaking my ankle, or not knowing how to stop down a hill, or just maybe my head is so elevated
really know
that my
how
body.
To stop? I think everyone knows how to stop. As in, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, the brake on the back," but does anyone actually tried and actually be successful? Because it doesn't work for me.
I don't know. I pretty much have almost fallen that first time.
I thought you were going to say that you have conquered it, and I'm like, no, you have not.
No, I have definitely not. But to be very honest, that first time, actually, I wasn't high that first time. So yeah, no. The second time we went rollerblading was really scary because I had to stop. I was really high. My head was not where my body felt, and I knew that was a sign that I should just go back inside. But I didn't go back inside right away. I still kind of did a twirl and.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was nice.
No, but
don't go high.
Anyway, stay active, and rollerblading is one thing that we started. We've been eating better, I think, so that's always been somewhat better until the highness kicks in, and then all of a sudden it's like Trader Joe's snacks.
Yeah, honestly, Trader Joe's is it. Trader Joe's is one of those places that you could just be so dissociative and just get whatever the fuck you're craving, and then go home and eat it and just feel like, okay, I'm not that guilty in eating it because at least it's not as bad as the other brands that are literally poison. I'm sure there's Trader Joe's, products that we eat that are probably just as bad, but at least it says Trader Joe's on it. I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, if you get high, just try to avoid your munchie consumption, because if you have a stubborn gut, you can do all the ab workouts in the world, discipline.
But Trader Joe's munchies won't allow it.
No, they won't. I mean, it's like you're fighting back, right? You're just fighting back whatever you're putting in your body. But I think that the main way to maintain a moderate appetite for certain things is just to have things in moderation, so that you always feel like you're getting a little bit of it and never a craving for it. And I feel like that's always been kind of what I've done, because I honestly feel like I torture myself sometimes when it comes to food. I never find myself truly eating in excess. I always find myself eating and just enough to hold me over, and then I kind of I don't know, not like starve myself, but my brain shuts off and I don't think about food. Like I don't think my
Don't
body
you find
needs
it
it.
interesting that like some people like when they have a lot of stress or anxiety or depression and those you have like they eat nonstop versus those that don't want to eat at all. Like it's
I eat nothing when like if I have anxiety, I can't even look at food. Food to me is like an enemy. It's like, no, you're gonna make me throw up whatever I'm trying to keep in, you know? So I think with anxiety, I mean, it truly is like the killer. You're killing yourself, right? You're literally
yeah.
killing yourself, but sometimes you just can't control it. And you got to learn to master and find mantras to distinguish what it is in that exact moment that's causing you that quick anxiety or like random sabotage anxiety, and just be like, oh, I remember this feeling. I've seen this before. Shut up. Like let me eat my meal now and then give it back to me after. And I've gotten a little bit better at that. And that's why I've been able to keep some weight on. And then obviously smoking weed helps. So
But I think it's kind of what it is that because of this anxiety and stress that we all have in our lives at different levels and different capacities, it's like it's we find our coping mechanisms, and and some of it is, like fitness, like for yourself, like you're really into that, and you're like you find a piece of life momentarily, from it. I think that's important. Like for myself, it's a struggle to get to the gym, but I know I need to get to the gym just because of my health.
right.
For you, you're using it as a method of peace almost, versus I'm using it for I need to be healthier.
For me, when I'm at the gym, I think about everything that would normally bother me or piss me off. And then I'm working out, so I feel really good. Like I'm using it as
Well,
fuel.
yeah, you almost taking your anger out on something, almost in a sense.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
it genuinely makes me process whatever it is that I'm angry about, and it helps me fuel it into some type of self motive, like true self like empowerment. And then when I'm there, I feel just such a high because I'm like I did something so physically exhilarating that also is helping my body and helping my mental state, that it leaves me feeling just so elevated about a lot of things. Like I start having a more optimistic outlook on certain things, and I have a more clear, like level-headed view. And just because like a lot of the intensity of those emotions just kind of was put into something, so at least physically, I don't feel the need to be pumped up and angry. I can just kind of now hear my thoughts in a more relaxed state and say, okay, the body's quelled. What's the head going through? All right, those thoughts suck. You know what? They may return momentarily. They may return in a couple days, weeks, whatever. But right now, it kind of makes sense to me. I can rationalize it. I can understand it. I can maybe not want to accept it, but it is the reality. And then I move on for a bit.
Yeah.
And all of that happens in a consistent flow of working out.
And like for myself, like
Yeah.
what you're describing is it's like you're thinking through your thoughts and you're working out. For myself, like I just want to like be in like a quiet little corner and just like process a little bit, and then all of a sudden go out and face the world. Like you're wanting to exert some energy, and in my mind, I'm like, why can't I do that? And that's what I should be doing. Like I don't know,
You got to find in life anything that
helps.
yeah, cling to anything that helps because
I'm sorry to cut you up, but I have the squeakiest headset right now, and it is driving me bonkers.
Squeaky's headset. Oh,
this thing is like. No, I'm sorry. It's very distracting. I need to get some. What's that stuff called? WD-40.
Makes for great lube. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so
Wow.
I'm kidding.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, you have to find your coping mechanism or your moment of.
You got to cling to something. Don't cling to anything. Clinging is bad. Don't cling to shit. Cling to nothing. Just forget that word exists.
Unless you're saran wrap.
Yes, whatever. So the point is, just in life, anything that makes you in some way want to move physically. Like I know that just sounds kind of ridiculous to say and word it that way. Like what makes me want to physically move? Like yes, that sounds funny, but anything that makes you have a motivation just always to get up. Actually, I think some people probably use unhealthy things. It's for those motivations. Anyway, oh God, don't take advice from me at all. Don't listen to me. Don't look at me. Don't take advice from me. No, I'm just kidding. I give great advice. I just, you know, it's funny because I give great advice because it's after the fact of whatever fuck up I had, so that it never really becomes relevant to how I can apply it to my own life. It's almost like I'm learning as new things are coming, and it's just constant like learning and then new obstacle after the obstacle.
Well, guess
And
what?
yeah,
You're just the trailblazer of life. So you know what? Just that's something to be.
yeah, I'm my own trailblazer, and I can appreciate that my own being is suffering for me. I appreciate that. Yes, I love this simulation for me. It's awesome. No, it's great. To be honest, to be alive is great, and all these trials and horrible situations and sufferings just reminds me how much more of a refined faith I have in something and a higher power in God. Because a lot of it just seems perfectly orchestrated to test every single human being's humanity. And I think the spiritual warfare all around us is real. And I think this is a great segue into what's going on again with Gaza. I mean, we're over 150 days in, you know, over 30,000 dead. I mean, there's still reported that there's even probably way more dead under the rubble. You know, there's still so many people unidentified, you know, with 70,000 plus injured. And I mean, I can't even name how many are starving. It might be at this point the whole population. So it is at the point now, I think what we're seeing in real time, that this sets a scary, very surreal, but real precedent that if this can happen there, what's to say that won't happen to the American people when we've seen in the last
Yeah, who's next?
8 years that are I mean, since I was a kid, you know, that our president always seems to be against their own people. Like the American government seems to be against their own people. Like they use us as pawns in their propaganda to then fuel these wars that only make them more money. And then at the same time, they, you know, control our population and, you know, keep us low and never able to fight back. It's almost like a scary but real game of like Puppet Master, or I don't know, just some chessboard game, some shit like that, you know, where people are just controlling your lives like it's a game, you know, like a chess game, I guess, for fun. I don't know. I think that there's a very clear indication that humanity can.
That just might be the innate evil of the world, though.
You feel it. You can just feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's honestly, someone with like who's gone through the worst shit like that. I mean, there's so many people that are suffering in the world that have gone through horrible things, and I know they can be either amazing people after it or, you know, unfortunately become part of the vicious cycle. And I feel like I fall in that vein of, you know, and I'm not trying to sound self-righteous or anything, but like I've lost my mom in a horrific way, and I've had a really rough childhood, and I've gone through a lot of things, but I don't feel like I'm a victim. I don't feel like people should pity me or feel bad. I think it should just be a sign, like, if I can inspire someone to say, you know, like, he's been through it, but he's still smiling. He's still very kind to people. He's still, you know, very deep as an empath, and is very, you know, awoke to the horrors of the world, and is able to kind of talk about it and, you know, see if there's a part that they can take in helping change that system, you know. But I think so many people don't want to accept that. They want to see minor inconveniences in their lives as well as some serious things, and they completely become bad people after it. And it's like, yes, there can be moments where you break down. There can be moments where you're human and you cry and you vent and you want to just yell at the world, but don't let it be how you treat other people. I think that's just kind of the main lesson that I've always learned from suffering, is don't let that be the way you know, bring on that pain to other people, because they didn't have to go through that, what you went through. You should know that there's others that may go through what you went through and you can relate. But if someone hasn't experienced the pain you have had, don't be a person that's now causing pain upon others. Like it won't ever break the cycle. It'll just still come back to you tenfold.
Yeah, for sure. Because you don't necessarily want to kind of wish that on anyone either, because it was so awful or evil or, you know,
horrible. You know, there's certain things that happen to people, and all, you know, trauma comes in all, you know, forms. I mean,
shapes and sizes.
Yeah, it comes in all forms. You know, there's a story behind every story. When you look at someone, you don't, or hear from someone, you don't know what people are truly going through. So instead of being a victim as a card, or maybe, you know, pitying yourself after you've gone through things as much as you want to and know it's natural. I've had those waves myself. View it this way. If you feel as though you are owed something in this world for being a good person, you're not. And if you feel like you're owed for something in this world for being a bad person, you're not. You're just in this life to live. And I feel like whatever you do, you will be judged for when you eventually meet your maker. That's my personal opinion. But you're not owed anything for choosing either path, I think, while you're alive. Like, good things are not going to come to you just because you're a good person. I think you just be a good person because you know that it's the right thing to do in just basic function in a functioning society, because you know everything comes back to you. Like, we've seen it. Even if you don't want to be a spiritual person, we just see that, like, there is a natural oddity, like a karmic flow within our consciousness that I feel like, I don't know, in some way shapes the way a human interacts with you. If you're putting out bad energy, I feel like people can sense that, and then you're gonna get bad energy back. So that's just kind of how it works. Anyway, this is all me
Well, it goes
trying to
back
find
to
ways
what the
to
whole
cope.
premise of the podcast is kind of like to listen to each other, to have the conversation, because you don't know, like you said, what story that the individual has gone through or hasn't gone through.
Right.
You know, so it's about, once again, listening and reflecting, or not. Well, reflecting's good too, you know, because you learn from it.
Yeah. So again, what's going on with Gaza and how the U.S. is funding, billions of dollars to Israel, funding them with all these weapons, and yet we're calling for a temporary ceasefire. I mean, at this point, I don't even know if the simulation was even intended to be this way, because it's horrifically, like, dystopically comedical, because it just doesn't make sense at how blatantly evil, sadistic, and like Black Mirror episode like our government is becoming. I mean, it's always been this way. I think maybe because I'm older.
It's been that way.
I'm just older and more, I guess, aware than I have been in the past, where I'm like, oh, it used to be someone talks about some horrific attack that happened, and then you're like, oh, you dirty sand peoples. Yeah, you, because your name's Kareem. So you would hear things like that, and it's actually great because I don't hear that as much. Like, you may see it as, like, the hatred being the minority now, where people may burst things out like that, but I don't feel that same sense of fear. I feel like now more people are...
But I also think that the world is kind of waking up.
Yeah.
And people are...
You're seeing more
learning.
people, good
Like,
people
people
out
are
there.
opening their eyes, and it goes back to what we talked about last episode, is kind of like, getting outside of that little box and kind of learning. And I think that's what you're seeing in real life. Unfortunately, it's going from worse to worst, and then better. But I think more and more people are waking up, though.
And I think that's the reason why...
Unfortunately, not the right people.
Back when I was younger, that's why I think I was always afraid and tried to, just blend in and always prove I'm a good person, whatever, through, my name or whatever it is, my cross that I had since I was a baby, all these things that I would always just try to use as a form of, trying to blending in. But even though that was genuinely the identity that I had, my name was Kareem, or Orthodox Christian, like, that's me. I was always categorized because of that region, and your country happened to fall into that region or whatever. But now I don't feel that same sense of, like, having to blend in or whatever. Like, I could be just Kareem, and there can be multiple facets to me, to you, to whatever, any person, and it doesn't have to revolve around your ethnicity, race, or name or whatever. It could just be the things you like, the way you decide to present yourself, whatever it be. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think there's so much darkness around the world, but there's also a lot of great things about humanity. It's just that hatred is ugly, it's loud, it's destructive, it's controlling the masses, and the masses are actually not as part of the problem. It's our leaders. And then we become complicit into those problems because we have the power to make change. We have the power to vote. We have the power to step up, to protest, to boycott. It really comes down to how much you want to see the change. If you want to be that change you wish to see, as the line goes, right? The cliche saying, and it's so eerily true, especially now more than ever, that if you really have such a strong visceral reaction to what's going on in the world, you would do something to naturally change it. You would be more alert and aware of politics in a way you never have been before, not because you want to buy into the whole propaganda machine, but because you actually believe this time around we can hold people accountable. We can call people out. We can have receipts. We can fact check things. We can see live, living, breathing proof on the ground ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So many of what controlled us in the past is crumbling down, and I don't know if that's on purpose or that's just the natural design of things, but it's scary. It's a scary world to live in, but that fear, if you really think about it, it can easily be dismantled by our own action. And it will happen, and I think it is happening. I have so much hope for the future. What's happening to Gaza cannot be undone, and there will never be forgiveness on my end for the people that were complicit. You know, I can forgive in the overall evils of the world as a whole, but I don't think in my lifetime I can personally forgive the people complicit, because I think that when, you know, your humanity is being challenged and you're seeing the spiritual warfare all around you, you have a very clear path to take. And I think that's being on the path of humanity without even necessarily having to be pro any side specifically. You can just be pro humanity and just know wrong from right and evil from good. And if people wondered what they would have done, like I said in the last episodes, what you would have done during an act of genocide, like, you're doing it now. So whatever you're doing now, if you judge those people in the past, look in the mirror. Judge yourself right now, because you're exactly that person.
You're going to be the evil one in the history books next. You know, that's essentially what's happening.
I wouldn't say that anyone's going to necessarily be referenced by name that I know personally in a textbook, but hey, listen, in my living memory, and as well as the living memory of so many people, will remember certain generations.
But I'm saying more from a political and I don't know. I'm just saying in general, as history books write this into it.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, in the 2020s, this generation had been completely supportive of this or been against this, and this generation truly was the pioneers of the peace movement that led to the official end of this genocide.
Yeah, they'll definitely twist it.
But I'm sure they'll say there's a genocide and report it, but I'm sure they're gonna either
someone has to come in and be the savior.
Actually, no, I don't think they're gonna reference this as a genocide in the history books, because the very people that are allowing this genocide to happen or funding it are responsible for it. So they're not gonna say their own government did it. So
true.
Maybe they won't put it in textbooks. Let's say in the U.S. Let's just say that, or in Israel, but it'll probably be documented in history for every other country, because they'll know what really happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, this episode got a little ranty, but to be honest, there's so much going on in the world, and
I think that's just also how we feel. Is that our minds are all over the place because of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you thought I was scatterbrained before, shit, you know, it's like I'm like, picture something that scatters a lot when it drops. That's what I am, but worse. Okay. Anyway. So thank you guys for joining us on the third episode of our comeback episodes. We're going to have a comeback. We'll be continuing to put out more content, but we're actually going to Mexico for a bachelorette party. We're leaving Friday morning, and then we're coming back on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And
should be a nice little getaway.
It'll be a nice little getaway. We had one in January. Couldn't really enjoy that because of obvious reasons, and I'll try my best to enjoy this, but,
we'll enjoy it.
We'll enjoy it, but, I think I probably internally will be feeling rage guilt the entire time, and, yeah. Anyway, everyone have a great night. On the next episode,
of One Hit High Points.
That.
And have a great night.